Hi everyone, and welcome to the Dibbly-Dobbly Podcast. Before we get started, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page as well. On today's episode of the podcast, we will be reviewing the third test match between Australia and India from the SCG. Let's recap the scores from this third test match between Australia and India from the SCG. Australia won the toss, chose to bat first, making 338 all out in their first innings. Steve Smith returned to form, top scoring with 131. Jadeja led the way for India, taking 4 for 62. India in reply, all out for 244, with both Gill and Pujara top scoring with 50. And Pat Cummins led the way for Australia, taking 4 for 29. Australia's second innings, they made 6 for 312 declared. Cameron Green top scoring with his maiden half century in Test match cricket with 84. And Saini and Ashwin both taking 2 wickets each for India. India in reply was set 407 to win the Test match. In the end, they made 5 for 334 in 131 overs, securing a draw in this third test match. Rishabh Pant top scored with 97, and Hazelwood and Lyon both took 2 wickets each for Australia. The match was a draw, and Steve Smith was named man of the match. My thoughts on this test match was that both teams really fought well on the last day. Australia gave it all they got, trying to get the last few wickets and trying to bowl India out. Unfortunately, they couldn't do it. India showed great fight and character and resilience, and they showed that they weren't going to give up despite the odds, and they managed to hang on for a draw, which was a fantastic effort from them. So you've got to give a lot of credit to India. They played pretty well to draw this test match. Australia will be disappointed that they didn't quite get the result, but it sets up a very good test match heading into Brisbane at 1-1. I thought the pitch, I was quite disappointed with that. I thought the pitch was going to break up a lot more. We saw a bit of uneven bounce and some spin, but we didn't really see that on the last day. So probably that was because of the rain around in Sydney. Probably the sun wasn't baking the pitch, and we didn't really see it deteriorate or break up as much. So I was really disappointed in the pitch there, but overall, it was a great test match to watch. Some of the highlights for me in this test were Steve Smith's superb innings in both innings of this test match. He scored 80-odd in the second innings, but a superb 100 in the first innings. Obviously returning to form, which is great to see Steve Smith back in the runs. I thought the Vihari and Ashwin partnership was good. They showed a lot of fight, resilience, and character to get India over the line and draw the test match. And I thought Rishabh Pant batted quite well for his 97, putting on a show and taking on Australia and not fearing to get out, and obviously hoping that India could get the win in the end. But when he got out and Pujara got out, pretty much India shut up shop and decided to draw the test match. But overall, it was a great test match to watch. As I said before, it sets up a really good test match in Brisbane with the series still at 1-1. So let's hope for a great test match in Brisbane, and it's going to be a fantastic finish to a very good series. Let's have a look at some of the key numbers and stats from this third test match between Australia and India from the SCG. 131 overs, India's longest innings to draw a test match against Australia. The previous best was 89.2 overs against Australia at the SCG in January 2015. Vihari's 23 not out off 161 balls is the 9th slowest innings in Test history. In terms of strike rate, the last player to have batted for more than 150 balls at a slower strike rate was Hashim Amla, 25 of 244 balls, against India in Delhi in 2015. Josh Hazelwood's figures of 2 for 39 from 26 overs are among the most economical from a fast bowler in Australia this century. From innings of 20-plus overs, only Glenn McGrath 3 times and Pat Cummins once have been more frugal in terms of runs per over. Ashwin has played 103 Test innings and faced 128 balls in this innings. This is the eighth most balls he has faced. He has reached 20 on 43 occasions, and among those, this is his slowest innings in terms of strike rate. 205 balls faced by Cheshwar Pujara in his 77. It is the eighth time Pujara has faced 200 plus balls in an innings against Australia. 256 balls in the 62-run partnership between Ashwin and Vihari is the longest for the 6-wicket by an Indian pair in Australia in terms of balls faced, bettering Jadeja and Rahane during the MCG test this series. 22, only once before, Mitchell Starc bowled as many overs in a test innings without taking a wicket. That was back in Chennai in February 2013, when he took none for 75 from 25 overs as Australia lost by 8 wickets. 56.88 is Rishabh Pant's batting average against Australia. It is the best by a wicketkeeper in 60 years. He averages 146 at the SCG from 3 innings and made 159 not out 2 years ago. Nathan Lyon bowled 46 overs in the second innings, the 11th time in his career he has managed at least that many overs in a test innings. The last time he bowled more in a test innings was 2 years ago against India at the SCG when he bowled 57.2 overs in the first innings, which is the most he has ever bowled in a test innings, and 56 years since a team has faced as many balls, 786 in the fourth innings of a test at the SCG. And back in 1964, South Africa faced 117 balls in 8-ball overs for a draw against Australia. So those are the key numbers and stats to come out of this third test match against Australia and India from the SCG. Let's have a look at Australia's performance in this test match. We'll start with the batsmen. Pucovski on debut, 62 and 10. Warner, 5 and 13. Labuschagne, 91 and 73. Smith, 131 and 81. Wade, 13 and 4. Green, 0 and 84. Payne, 1 and 39. Overall, I think the batsmen did pretty well, certainly better than Melbourne. I thought Will Pucovski batted well on debut and showed he was quite comfortable at test level. David Warner was a bit rusty. Coming back, obviously, hasn't played a lot of cricket, so he's going to be a bit rusty. Labuschagne and Smith, good to see them get back into the runs and get back into form. Matthew Wade was a disappointment, didn't really contribute that much. Cameron Green played well in the second innings, scored 84, which was fantastic to see that. And Tim Payne scored 39 in the second innings. So overall, I think Australia's batsmen definitely learnt from Melbourne to put the pressure back on the Indian bowlers, which they did. The run rate was quite high in this test match for Australia, well above 3 and over in both innings. So that was good. And good to see Australia have that positive intent as well. So overall, the batsmen did pretty well. I think probably Matthew Wade will be disappointed at his outcome in this test match. He'll be looking to definitely make a bigger contribution, I should say, in Brisbane. Same with David Warner as well, coming back from injury. So overall, I think the batsmen did well. Good to see Smith and Labuschagne back in form, and that's definitely good signs for Australia going forward into the fourth test match. We'll have a look at the bowlers and see how they went about things in this test match. Pat Cummins took 5 wickets for the match. Mitchell Starc only took the 1 wicket. Nathan Lyon took 2 wickets for the match, and Josh Hazlewood took 4 wickets for the match. Once again, the bowlers bowled well. They found it a bit tough in the second innings, but I think everybody thought the pitch was going to act up a bit on the last day, a bit of uneven bounce and spin. Unfortunately, we didn't see that. Probably because of the rain in Sydney, we didn't really have that hot weather baking the pitch. So at the end of the day, they bowled pretty well. Toiled hard, especially in that second innings. But they'll be disappointed that they didn't quite finish off the job and get the win. But they'll be looking forward to bowling at the Gabba, definitely, and be looking to take lots of wickets there for the fourth test match. Australia overall in this test match played pretty well. They were bossing the game for most of it up until India fought back on day 5. But they'll take a lot of confidence out of this test match and hopefully continue that on into Brisbane and hopefully win the series and retain the Border Gavaskar Trophy. And for Australia, being in Brisbane, they haven't lost there since 1988, so that will give them lots of confidence heading into the last test match. So overall, Australia will be pretty happy but disappointed that they didn't get the result, but most definitely they'll be looking forward to winning in Brisbane and hopefully a series win as well. Let's have a look at India's performance in this test match. We'll start with the batsman, Rohit Sharma, 26 and 52, Gill, 50 and 31, Pujara, 50 and 77, Rahane, 22 and 4, Vihari, 4 and 23, Pant, 36 and 97, and Jadeja with 28. Overall, I think the Indian batsmen did pretty well in this test match, especially in the second innings. They fought pretty hard in the second innings to draw the test match for Australia. I thought Rishabh Pant did pretty well in that innings of 97. Shows everyone that he's an aggressive player and likes to get on with it, and he certainly did with that 97. Unfortunately, he got out on 97 and didn't quite get the century, playing a rash shot there to get out to Nathan Lyon. But overall, the Indian batsmen in the second innings will be just happy to show some fight and character. At one stage, India were looking likely to win the game, but once they lost Pujara and Pant, they pretty much shut up shop, and Vihari and Ashwin put out the anchor and dug themselves in for the long run, and they certainly did that in that epic partnership between the two to get India the draw. So I think overall India will be quite happy in the way they've batted in this test match. They showed a lot of fight and character and resilience to draw the test match. So I think some of them will be disappointed that they got starts and didn't get on with them, like Gill and Pujara, and obviously Pant would be disappointed not to get the century. So I think they'll be disappointed in getting the starts and not going on with it. So we'll have a look at the bowlers for India and see how they went in this test match. Jadeja took 4 wickets for the match. Ashwin took 2. Saini on debut took 4. Bumrah took 3. And Siraj took 2 wickets for the match. Overall, the Indian bowlers bowled okay. Probably not at their best in the first and second innings of this match. But they bowled okay. So overall, India's performance in this test match was okay with the bat. But the performance overall was quite good from them to show some character and some fight and some resilience to fight it out and in the end get a draw in this test match where they were behind for most of it. So, with this Indian team, they're going to show a lot of fight and resilience and character, and they've certainly shown that in this test match against all odds. So credit has to go to India for that. So for them, it's all about showing that fight and resilience and character in Brisbane. They know they will be up against it, obviously, with Australia's record in Brisbane, but they'll be looking to do the same as they did in Sydney, just looking to keep fighting and see what they can do in Brisbane for the fourth test match. Let's have a look at both teams and how they'll select their 11s heading into the fourth test match in Brisbane. Let's have a look at Australia's 11 for this fourth test match at the Gabba. Now, Tim Paine's already announced the 11 for Australia in this test match. There's only one change from Sydney. That's Will Pucovski out, Marcus Harris in. Pucovski picked up that shoulder injury in Sydney. and he was ruled out of this test match. So Marcus Harris replaces him at the top of the order. So it's Harris, Warner, Labuschagne, Smith, Wade, Green, Payne, Cummins, Stark, Lyon, and Hazelwood. So that's the 11 for Australia. So what do Australia need to do to bounce back from Sydney? They'll be disappointed, first of all, not to get the result in Sydney. For most of that test match, Australia were in front. They couldn't finish the job off in the end, getting those last few wickets. But for them, they'll be happy coming up to Brisbane, and obviously with Australia's brilliant record in Brisbane, haven't lost a test since 1988. They'll be very happy to be playing in Brisbane on a fast, quick, bouncy pitch in Brisbane. So the bowlers will be licking their lips at that, no doubt about that. For Australia, it's just about playing the way they've played in Sydney into Brisbane, just sticking to their processes and routines and backing their abilities to get the job done. And I think Australia will definitely do that. It's great to see Smith and Labuschagne back in form and scoring runs. I think Australia will be very happy if David Warner gets going. He didn't quite get going in Sydney, but hopefully for Australia, he will get going in Brisbane, and along with him and Labuschagne and Smith, will definitely put Australia in a good position with the bat in this test match in Brisbane if he gets going, which I think he will certainly do, David Warner. In saying all that, I think Australia will definitely bounce back and definitely win in Brisbane. It's also a special test match for Nathan Lyon, of course. In his 100th test match for Australia, he will become the 13th Australian player to play 100 test matches for Australia. The other 12 players to achieve that milestone were Ricky Ponting, Steve Waugh, Alan Border, Shane Warne, Mark Waugh, Glenn McGrath, Ian Healy, Michael Clarke, David Boone, Justin Langer, Mark Taylor, and Matthew Hayden. So those have been the 12 other players who have achieved that milestone. And also Nathan Lyon's 4 wickets away from 400 test wickets. And it will be a proud moment for Nathan Lyon as well to reach that milestone of 400 test match wickets. He will become the 3rd Australian to reach that milestone if he does achieve it in Brisbane, behind Shane Warne, obviously, and Glenn McGrath. So a very special test match for Nathan Lyon, and no doubt Australia will be looking to make it a victory and a series victory as well, and cap off Nathan Lyon's 100th test with a win. So overall, Australia will be looking to put in another good performance here in Brisbane and looking to win the series. Let's have a look at India's potential 11 for this 4th test match at the GABBA. Now, India have a lot of injury concerns. We'll just recap the injured players. Jadeja has been ruled out with a broken thumb. Jasprit Bumrah has been ruled out with an abdominal strain. Rishabh Pant's got that elbow arm injury. Vahari's got a hamstring injury. Ashwin's got a back injury. Pujara's got a finger injury that he's been managing throughout this whole series. And the other injuries that they've picked up as well, India, in this series, Shami with that broken arm from the first test match, Yadav with that calf injury that he got in Melbourne, KL Rahul was injured in the nets with a broken wrist, and 2 players who weren't even in the squad originally, Ishant Sharma had a side injury and Kumar had a thigh injury. So just a lot of injuries for India. And the depth of their squad is going to be really tested in this last test match. I think Rohit Sharma, Gill, Pujara, Rahane, Saini and Siraj are definitely in the 11 for this test match. I think Rishabh Pant will play. He didn't look too much in pain during that second innings in Sydney, so I think he'll play as well. I think he'll stay at number 5. Then that brings the question of who will bat at number 6. India don't have any other backup batsmen. They had KL Rahul, but now he's been injured. So they really have got two options now, and that's Shaw and Agarwal. So one of them two will have to come back and bat at number 6, because I don't think they'll move Shubman Gill from opening. He's done a pretty good job in these first 2 test matches that he's played. So they have to bat out of position and probably bat at number 6, because Part's going to bat at number 5. So either Shaw or Agarwal to come in. Whittam and Saha will come in to keep wicket, obviously, because of Part's injury. So he'll keep wicket. Now, if Ashwin's not fit, I think Ashwin will play, but India will make a call on that. If he doesn't play, I think they may select Kuldeep Yadav for that spin option. Something different, maybe a leg spinner. So Kuldeep Yadav being the leg spinner, they'll probably bring him into the side, just a bit of difference in the attack rather than off spin with Ashwin. That's if Ashwin's fit. If he's fit, he plays, but if he doesn't, I think Kuldeep Yadav could come in. Excuse me. And then they've got either Natarajan or Thakur to fill in that final bowling spot for Bumrah. So one of those two may play and make their debut in Natarajan and Thakur. So a lot of decisions to be made for India going into this last test match. They are definitely up against it. These injuries don't help, and they're playing in Brisbane, where Australia haven't lost in 30-odd years, since 1988. So they're definitely up against it. But if they show the type of character and fight and resilience we saw in Sydney, then you'll be happy as an Indian supporter seeing that, because you want to see the team fight and show that resilience and determination that you saw in Sydney. You want to see that in Brisbane. So they're definitely up against it. It's not going to be easy, but if they show that fight and resilience and character from Sydney into Brisbane, then you never know. But for me, it's going to be tough for India to try and win the series in Brisbane. Australia are definitely favourites, being at the Gabba. They haven't lost there in 30-odd years, since 1988. With all the injuries and all the odds against India, it's going to be very, very tough. But we'll wait and see what happens in this last test match at the Gabba. Well, that's the end of the innings, the close of play for this episode of the podcast. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast. And like and share our Facebook page. Our next episode of the podcast will be after the 4th test match, where we will be reviewing the 4th test and reviewing the series overall. Until then, keep safe and bye for now.